to Let's Talk Early Years. For many families, getting outside and active could pose a tremendous challenge. So in studio today with me is forest school leader and fierce advocate for taking a slower approach to early years education. Welcome, Miss Autumn O'Brien.
Hi, Melanie.
My friend.
I know, it's
That's
crazy.
exciting, right?
My longest friend in Dubai.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being my longest friend in Dubai. We've come a long way, right?
We have,
Yeah.
ever since that taxi ride with your green dress. The very start, when we built a school with all of the furniture we had to build with an Allen key.
Yes,
We did
blisters
it.
on the feet. Yeah, we are.
Lunch breaks together.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful
Look at us
journey,
now.
right? Yes. I enjoyed, and I still do, our profound conversations. I always leave you feeling like I've learned something. I always leave you feeling so inspired and so wanting to be a better version of myself. So I want to say that. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You too. You're like chicken soup for the soul for me.
Aww.
And even though we got into trouble for always having lunch together, but no one's ever going to stop us from doing that. But yeah,
No.
I've always loved your approach.
Thank you, Miss Autumn. But tell the world, tell our audience, who is Miss Autumn?
So I am an early years educator. I have been doing this since I was 18. I'm 29.
Oh.
So a long time. And I sort of fought against it. My mum always noticed that I was really good with children, but she was an early years educator and I wanted to be different to my mum. So I sort of rebelled and said I wanted to be an actress. And then basically that didn't work out at university. She said, come along to my class, just see how it goes. Spent some time in that reception class in the UK with a teacher called Miss Beverly, and I was just hooked for life. And just, I was a TA at the start, and I just learned everything like from the bottom up.
I love that.
Yeah, and I was,
that.
Washing paintbrushes and helping children with ADD to join in their Christmas nativity show, and setting up the outdoor provision. So she had like an outdoor-indoor classroom, and she was an amazing mentor. And then went to go and study it full time. But I didn't do university in like the traditional route. I went and did it like at night school. So I did my hours as a TA in the day, and then I did that at nighttime. And then that was in England. Then I went to be a ski nanny basically in France, where I helped 3-year-olds go to ski school. And then came to Dubai, met you. Got my first job as a nursery teacher and as a pre-FS1. And then I just knew it was my calling. And then set up a nursery with my mum, Principal Lisa. I'm sure people know who Principal Lisa is. And we set up a school that was running by an Indian curriculum. They were using sort of scripts. So the teacher would sort of go with a script, and my mum and I were just like, no, we can't do this. And they had this massive garden, but it wasn't being utilized. So that's when I went down the forest school route. So I was the first qualified forest school leader in the UAE at the time. We ripped up all the concrete in the car park, and we just grew, like mango trees and like wild, like native plants, and it just flourished. And then I went to go and work at Arbor. Arbor is an eco school in Dubai. And that's, I think, where I went from, being channel visioned on early years to being early years and outdoor education as an advocate, because I saw that in the UAE, there's a massive need for it, more than anywhere else that I've taught or experienced before.
Right.
So
I love your journey.
Yeah.
I love that you've started as a teaching assistant. I believe that the core of who we are as educators is knowing what happens behind the scenes. So I love that your experience encompasses that as well. And then I'd like to know that whole journey of coming to forest school. What did it take? Is there a specific qualification, since you're the first qualified forest school leader in the UAE? What did it take to get to that place?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, it took obviously a passion and a need, right? And it is a commitment. So it wasn't easy to like any qualification. It's not like plain sailing. But at the time that I did it, it was during COVID, so I had to do a lot of it online. And you can go to the Forest School Association website. And I did my course with someone called Sarah, who's the leader for that. And because I was actually doing it at my nursery, but then COVID happened. So my student had to become my husband, actually.
Oh, wonderful.
And you basically have to upload different videos and essays and, practical, den building, local flora and fauna lessons. You have to do a case study. And the case study was actually on my husband at the time in the desert, teaching him how to make fires in the desert. Yeah, but then obviously I was able to then put my knowledge into practice when I joined Arbor, because I became the eco-literacy specialist. So all of my lessons were outside, to do with permaculture, and I got to put in all of my practice.
Right. So if anybody anywhere in the world wanted to do forest school training, it could be online through...
Yeah, it can be online or it can be in person. So I did a course just recently, after my wedding, on my honeymoon, actually.
Oh, no, you did not.
Yeah, literally. I said to my husband, I was like, I really want to do this course, but it's like sort of in our honeymoon. He was like, no, it's fine. You do you. But it was in Newquay in Cornwall. So I'm from Cornwall, and it was a beach school course. So that was all practical, hands-on every single day. It was for 5 days. It was actually on the beach, and I was learning everything, like, how to start fires, how to identify, animals in rock pools, how to do orienteering. So I've got that now as well as my online. But yeah, literally anyone can do it anywhere if you have a passion and, a need for it. Just, go on the website and get going. I think
particularly people in Dubai who have access to the desert and the beaches would be very interested to know about the course you've done in Cornwall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really good. Yeah.
So what is the institute that you did that qualification
So that
with?
was beach schools in Newquay. So it's just Newquay Beach School.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds fantastic.
And if anyone just wants to get the details, just send me a DM and I'll send it to you.
A DM on?
On Instagram.
Yeah.
Miss Autumn says.
There we go.
And I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Autumn, what would forest school look like in a place like Dubai, where we've got traditional nursery schools? Not all of them are purpose-built. Not all of them have this huge outdoor space for children to jump into puddles and play by the river or by the lake or anything like that. What would it look like?
I think you actually just mentioned it just a second ago about the fact that you have the desert and the beach. Yeah. So when people think of forest school, and obviously, yes, it's in the name, I'm actually saying the word forest. So when you think of forest, you think of, the rolling hills and the Scandinavian forest with the big pine trees and the elm trees. You think of all of that.
Yeah.
But actually, forest school is about using your local landscape and your local context. So that could literally even be in a park. So when I was studying like the impacts of, outdoor education, they did studies in Japan in parks and they still got the same results.
Right.
So yes, okay, nurseries might not have massive outdoor spaces, but they have balconies, they have, car parks. Like I just said, like we ripped up all the concrete in a part of our car park, and we made that into a little oasis. So I think it's about broadening your horizons about what that can look like.
Right.
It doesn't need to be pine cones, big trees. It can be a balcony. It can be your local park.
Right.
It can be just little snippets of nature in an urban environment. You can still get the same results.
I get you. So why forest school?
So, I just became fascinated with it, really. It's now become a bit of a fad, and I think that's a good thing. But I think also you have to sometimes look at and see, okay, well, why is this trendy? Like, is it trendy for like the right reasons? And like for sure you can pull so many great things from it, but I just wouldn't want people to be like, okay, I'm gonna do forest school for the sake of it. But when you actually look at like what it's about and what it underpins, anyone could do it. Right. So it has 6 main principles. So it should be a long-term thing. So it's not like, okay, we do forest school, we take them out to the park once a week, that's it.
Right.
It should be a long-term exposure for children to be spending some time outside.
Right.
It should involve some element of risk. So it should have some risky play. I can talk about that more in detail.
Please expand on that, because I'm finding more and more that even in a place like Dubai, teachers, assistants are scared to get the children dirty, scared to involve them in risky play, scared to expose them to loose parts play. So please expand on that for us.
Yeah. So I think you hear in the early years, this is like probably the best podcast to talk about this as well. Things get thrown around, don't they? They're fads, they're trendy, all of this stuff with risky play. But it's really important to talk about, okay, we're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Like, what are the developmental impacts on children? Like, it's not just for the sake of it. So risky play, like there's been so many studies into this, is it improves children's microbes, so their exposure to healthy bacteria, and it can actually improve your immune system. So playing with mud, playing with dirt, getting dirty. So another thing is that it improves self-esteem. So there's that really famous Montessori quote, when you do it for me, you rob me of that experience. Yeah. So when I was in Denmark, I saw children as young as 18 months carrying a backpack into the desert. Imagine the impact on their core muscle strength, on their balance, on their development, on their self-esteem. Yes. Oh, I am a child, I am an individual, and I can do this myself.
Yes. Yes.
And also, it's risk management. So if you're always eliminating risk from children's lives, it means that they're going to be more accident prone. And there is actually so much data now to back this up. There's more broken bones. Children are visiting doctors more than they were in our time, because they're so, it's called cotton wool kid syndrome, because it's good to fall, because when you fall you learn not to do that again.
It's self-awareness, that body awareness
from an early age. From, that when you start to walk, all of those, I've seen recently on Amazon, there's this backpack you can put on a toddler with a cushion on the back. So if they fall over, they get cushioned.
Cotton wooled.
Literally. So, but it's about taking managed risks. So I learned this in Denmark again. So in Scandinavia, they don't just let them climb any old tree. Right. Okay, we're risky play, we just let them go wild. Right. No, it's about taking managed risks. Right. And there's a theorist called Mortlock, and basically there's stages of risk. And if you go to misadventure, it's when it's just risk for no reason. Right. That could be jumping in a freezing cold river. Right. Right. So it's about, if you are going to climb a tree, is that tree able to take your weight? And as a facilitator of that, it's not about saying, oh, be careful, be careful. It's about really managing what you're saying. Try to say as least as possible. But if needed, just sometimes as the adult with that wisdom, you can say, is that tree branch big enough or bigger than your leg? In Denmark, they say it has to be bigger than your leg for you to climb it. So, but also we need to realize that children are actually, and humans are inbuilt with risk management devices in us. Yeah. You see that from babies. Yeah. Babies have an innate risk of falling, and they will prevent themselves from falling. Right. So we need to honor that as well and step back. Yes. So it's about, managing that.
I hear you also saying that the role of the educator veers a bit from the traditional facilitator. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I basically, just to tell the story a little bit, I was obviously obsessed with forest school, I still am, but I was like, how can I really learn about this in its truest form? Where did it come from? Obviously did loads of digging, and forest school approach, outdoor education, doesn't come from any place. It literally is in our DNA. We're humans, we're supposed to be outside. It's in the way that our eyes are developed, our skin, everything, right? But one of the places which really has documented and is a huge advocate for outdoor education is Scandinavia. So I asked my school, can I go? They're like, yes. So I booked a flight and I went to Denmark, Sweden and Norway. And I booked to go into these schools and I just watched and I was there the whole time. And the biggest thing that I learnt, which was fascinating to me, was the role of the educator. So they hardly say anything to the children.
Wow.
It was fascinating.
Wow.
And I found that when I came back, I really stopped myself from asking questions constantly. And the reason that they do that is they honor the child massively. They respect the child as an individual, not seeing them as someone that needs to be taught, as a vessel that needs to be filled with information, as they provide the environment and the nurturing that they need to be able to thrive. And those children, I've never met such thriving children.
Gosh.
You know, they were active, you know, they were great weight. They had amazing social skills, good well-being. Their parents sort of came in and out, but they weren't that bothered. They had a good, secure attachment. But, you know, the biggest thing I learned was the role of the educator really was stepped back to allow those peer relationships to flourish.
Yeah.
So they had multi-age groups. So you had 6-year-olds helping 2-year-olds up onto their stool and putting their soup in their bowl.
And again, for any traditional nursery school, the mixed age group sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, any parent coming on a tour to the nursery school would want to know, like, are they separated by age, by developmental stage, you know? And here you're saying something quite different, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I think there's always I'm victim to it too as well. We like to control, we like order as human beings,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And there takes a really powerful educator, reflective educator to step back and go, do I really need to intervene here or can I let the magic happen?
Yeah.
And if I was over there spooning the soup into everyone's bowl, I wouldn't allow that beautiful moment of the 6-year-old to help the 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And yes, it might take longer. It might be louder. It might be messier.
Yeah.
But are we okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's nothing
Yes.
cloth can't fix at the end of the day.
Yeah. And in there, I hear you speaking about time, about forgetting that there's this notion of time, because children really have this innate sense of time, right? They have an inbuilt sense of, okay, now I'm hungry, so I want to eat, you know, or now I'm tired and I want to sleep. But we've created a sort of routine and, you know, that it's time for this and it's time for this. And we've only got 30 minutes of outdoor play. And so you're an advocate too for taking it a little bit slower in the early years.
Massively.
Yeah.
Massively. I think, and in my life in general as well, I think there's so many studies now about how we are now a generation, you know, rife with anxiety.
Yes.
You know, especially, you know, we live in Dubai. It's go, go, go. On the way here, you know, my heart was, racing, traffic, taxis. And I hear a lot of mums at the moment, you know, struggling with the school run.
Yeah.
Imagine if earlier settings could just be that place of calm and serenity and slowing things down. Imagine the impact that would have, because there is, you know, so much data that shows that our, you know, psychological health is linked to our, you know, our academic health, you know, and how we develop as a human being. It's not just, you know, airy-fairy.
Yeah.
If we can regulate those little people's nervous systems and we feel regulated, how much could they learn, you know? And that's what I really learned, you know, in Denmark is, yes, I'm not saying that they should be wild and not have a routine. They had a routine.
Yeah.
Those children knew when they came into school, they hung their backpack up, they had their breakfast for everyone, they went into the forest, they sat down at this time. They knew they were in a routine. I am a big advocate for routines. But that sometimes changed a little bit each day. Maybe someone was a bit slower, they grazed their knee. It wasn't go, go, go.
Right.
In schools in Dubai, especially since I moved here, because we have these really large schools, and large settings, when they're trying to squeeze so many things in, Arabic, swimming, PE, the children are overscheduled and they're stressed.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
And
I
they
agree
come
with
home-
you. Even those extracurricular activities at our age, at earlier stage, I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah.
They are.
And they have tutoring after school, and they have this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, when we look at all of the the amazing pedagogists, out there, Piaget, Froebel, Montessori, all of these amazing, they advocate for that, that just the basics, like we don't need all of that other fluff.
Yes.
We just need to get the basics right.
Right.
Are they nurtured? Do they have good relationships? Are they fed? And I think that we're just trying to fill these little people's lives with too much, and it's stressing them out.
Yeah.
And we're trying to control it. And actually, there's another thing, that it takes 45 minutes for a child to get into a state of play. So if they're moving every 30 minutes, they're just starting.
We've interrupted. Yes.
Constantly interrupting. And this is, I'll tell you this story. This one really stuck with me. So on my last day at this school in just outside of Copenhagen, I was with these children all week, and it was, it was my time to say goodbye. And, they were playing out in the garden. It was 3:00, so almost time for them to go home. And I really wanted for them to make something for me so that I could keep it and frame it so I could remember them. And they were playing in this Wendy house, and they were pretending to be a restaurant, how it is. And I came up to them and I said, hi. And they just didn't look at me. And then I just said, hi, would you mind just doing a little picture for me so I can remember you? And these children looked at me, and they just sort of looked at me like, and it wasn't just like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. They obviously had never experienced something like this before. It was so alien to them that someone would come into their space, ask them to do something, and they would perform that. So they were looking at me like in a really alien way, like, that's really strange that she's asking that.
Wow.
And also, why would I do that when I'm doing this?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it was so humbling, because especially in British schools, like we'll say, they'll be playing, and you're like, come and do your reading practice, or come and do your maths now. And why is what we're asking them to do more important than what they're doing?
Yes. I hear you speaking about respect for them.
Yeah.
Respect for their individual needs, and respecting their mental wellness, and respecting their process as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you spoke about two principles. That was risky play and the continuity of Forest School.
Yeah.
What are some of the others?
So the other ones are that it's play-based. So it should be child-initiated, free flow, and allow for that, movement and exploration. It shouldn't be like structured, like, okay, now we're going to, yes, it can have some elements of structure, like maybe you read a story with them or you do some carving, but the element of it that should really be free play and play-based.
Yeah.
It should be led by a qualified practitioner.
Right.
And it should be in a natural environment. I think is that 6, or am I missing one?
6, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So in a natural environment. So in spaces where we have, as you mentioned before, we can use the balcony. What would that look like? I mean, I can't have a muddy puddle on the balcony. So what can I do? How can I integrate the Forest School approach or nature play onto my little balcony in my little apartment, for example?
Yeah, so I would just have like a tough tray or something, or just a tray, baking tray with some sand, some shells that you found. Go to the beach together. Go and just pick up those things. Take your time. Stop to smell the flowers. There is nature everywhere you go. You'll be able to hear birds on that walk.
Right.
You'll be able to see insects, ants. The great scientists are great observers. So stop and observe. Just talk about what you see. Yeah. Instead of rush off, we go to the beach, in you get, out you get. No, take your time. Right. What do you notice? How does it feel on your skin?
Yeah.
Bring that back to your balcony. I speak to a few parents as well here that a lot of children here I find have like sensory aversions, like they don't like to sit on grass, they don't like to be sandy, and that comes down to, I think, exposure. So I always think bring that into your home, bring it into the bathtub, and just the more times you expose a child to something in a really hands-off way, not like, oh, you need to swim because it's good for you. No, just like, just walk along, you put your toe in, no pressure.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they'll put their toe in.
Yes.
But you haven't asked them to put their toe in.
Yes. It's out of their own free will. You're reminding me of something that I read in Balanced and Barefoot by Angela Hanscom. I'm going to read it to you, and I'd like to hear your commentary. It says, more and more teachers and parents everywhere are reporting that children are starting to fall out of their seats in school, are becoming more aggressive and easily frustrated, are having trouble paying attention, are showing more anxiety, and are spending less time in imaginary play than ever before. These symptoms are due in part to underdeveloped motor and sensory skills, which leave children underprepared for academics and overwhelmed by daily life and social situations. Compromised sensory and motor development can lead to a slew of problems and are quickly becoming an epidemic of grave concern. This is scary.
It's scary, but it's true.
Yeah.
It is.
But I believe for a school is an antidote.
It is.
It could be.
It is.
Yeah.
And like you said, the aggression. The thing is I think we often view children and not as people. I think that we're always asking them to hurry along or go, how would we feel if they were in that classroom? How would we feel if we were told to sit down in that chair and we can't look out the window, and then you've got to go there next and put your shoes on quickly because you're late? Imagine that was your day.
Were you constantly being told what to do, how to do it? Be quiet, listen. I've got an opinion. You need to listen to it.
I would be, falling off my chair, and I would be aggressive if that was me.
Yes.
So I think we need to, that's one antidote. And sensory experiences, it's so simple. It's just going to the beach, sitting on grass, but the earlier you do it, the better.
Yeah.
Because that's when those fears can be eradicated.
Yes.
And I meet a lot of children again that are really terrified of insects, and that is a partly primitive. I get it.
Right.
I'm not like massively big on insects. People wouldn't think that, but I try not to be. But I am a little bit.
Right.
They give me the heebie-jeebies. But I have learned to expose myself to them, and now I'm okay with them.
Right.
So, but if from an early age, when they're little sponges, they're learning all the different connections that they need to make in their brain. And if every time mummy sees an ant, it builds that fear from a very early age. Right. So if we can put them on grass without a playmat.
Gosh, I'm thinking of that little YouTube video where you try to put the baby on the grass and they just lift their legs and they're just completely averse to that experience.
But what usually happens is you see they'll get picked up.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
What would happen if we just sat with that uncomfortable feeling for a little bit and we distracted?
Right.
Get the rattle out.
Right.
And they're distracted, and then they will be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to expose them in small, short doses that they can handle over time.
Right.
Long term.
Right. So even that messy play in the nursery school. And we spoke about this during this week, that it doesn't necessarily have to involve food, right? Yes. So integrating that sensory play in our nursery settings, integrating it into our homes and into the culture in our homes as well. That we should not be dirt averse or messy averse or conscious of time all the time. You're right that routine is important because children feel safe when they have a routine. But we could, at some point, show that respect to our children and slow it down a little bit.
Yeah. There's another thing that you've just reminded me of as well is though we do have to respect local culture and customs.
Yes.
So I do meet a lot of Islamic families that wouldn't feel comfortable with their child being dirty
Right.
in their uniform.
Right.
That wouldn't be seen as appropriate. So, but then you have to balance sometimes, what is the message that we're giving to that child, that every time they get a tiny stain, they change. That builds fear, doesn't it? Because it's like, oh, I can't have the stain. That's something to be scared. That needs to be whipped off straight away.
Yes.
So it's about finding the balance between respecting that, but also looking at children holistically and their developmental needs and the impacts that it has,
That is so profound, that you have a deeper reflection onto what the children's cultures and backgrounds are in your space, in your early years setting. Yeah? Miss Autumn, it has been such a wonderful pleasure. Last words for our audience.
Last words would be to do less and be more.
Oh.
So start doing less things and start being more present.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your warm, natural, beautiful self in our studio. You're just the epitome of all things slow and natural and beautiful. So thank you. Thank you for your wisdom. And I do believe that our viewers will be contacting you on your Instagram page. Remind us, it's
Miss Autumn Says.
There we go. Thank you for joining us for another wonderful conversation here on Let's Talk Early Years. I do believe that you would agree with me that the most beneficial gift we can bestow upon our children is the freedom, the time, and the space for uninterrupted play. Join us again on Let's Talk Early Years. Find us on Instagram, on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Go and like, follow, and leave us your comments. See you next time.